first policy is by
Sure.
Nelson Nash, Become Your Own Banker, with a different policy design. I didn't go with the way they designed the policy,
Yeah, yeah.
but I went with how they used their policies. And then I, kept searching more content, and then it was, okay, what if I just save money, invest, or save money plus park investment dollars that I was going to send to an investment anyway, but I'm going to
Hmm.
park it in the whole life first. I'm going to borrow out the investment part, right? So
Hmm.
let's, keep it easy. $1,000 for saving and say $1,000 for investment. And I'm going to take that thousand, and borrow it back out at an interest rate, and I'm going to invest and try to create cash flow, which
Sure.
ultimately is the famous words, the positive arbitrage that would occur in
Uh-huh.
that. Let me get
Hmm.
your thoughts. Let me get your thoughts on this one.
Sure. So the idea of that positive arbitrage, you're not really creating positive arbitrage. And that's the myth. Um, so the idea there is, and I hear this all the time, the idea there is I'm gonna I'm gonna keep numbers really simple here, just for listeners, right? Even though these are not the exact numbers, so that's the full caveat here. But the idea, the philosophy, the way that it's sold is, all right, go put your money in a whole life policy. You get a 6% dividend rate. You can borrow against it at 5%, right? So I'm going to put $1,000 in. I'm going to borrow 1,000, assuming that you got the cash in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to borrow at 5%. All the while, my policy is going to be making 6%, right? So I'm going to earn that 1%, and then I'm going to invest in whatever I'm investing in, right? Like, and let's call it I'm day trading. I'm day trading, and I'm earning 15%, right? So the idea is like I'm going to borrow at 5, earn 6. The money I'm using to borrow, I'm going to earn 15 on with my day trading, whatever it is, my currency, forex trading, whatever. And so therefore, I'm that positive arbitrage is I'm just creating more leverage, right? Like in this by utilizing the policy. But the reality is that's not how it works. It's this is where it goes back to the important parts. Like when we focus on arbitrage being the secret, you get in trouble. And you
Yes.
start looking as time going down the road and the math doesn't math, as you said earlier. And you're like, and this is where this stuff gets a bad reputation and it pisses me off because it shouldn't, like, this is so amazing in what we can do. And if you utilize it the right way and understand the opportunity cost, cost of capital, and time value of money, and if those are the three metrics that we're looking at, now you start to be like, all right, this can work. But the question is, where does it work? And this is why I created cash flow hacking. I don't want to jump ahead on you because I'm sure you want to go there a little bit, but I got to go there because it's
Go there.
relative to
Go
this.
there.
It's relative to this. This is
Yeah.
why I use cash flow hacking, because real estate creates cash flow and does all these things. Business, right, creates cash flow. But the thing is, these two elements, whether you're buying a business or whether you're buying real estate, they require down payments, right? And those down payments, there's two things. Like I'm going to use real estate as a focus, okay? So if I'm going to buy a $500,000 or $400,000 investment property, okay? In that $400,000 investment property, you need a 25% down payment, okay? I could go get a 25, I could pay cash for that 25% down payment, but then I have to think about what's the opportunity cost? What would that money grow to, right? And or I could go get a second mortgage. You could finance a second mortgage, right? Now that's higher interest rate debt to be able to do so. And so when you look at the cost of financing an investment property right now, it's 8.5%, 9%, maybe 9.5%. And when you look at financing a second mortgage, you're looking at 11, 12, 13% to do that. And so now you have to think about, all right, from this asset perspective, what's the cash flow? But also, what is the cost of money? Well, the cost of money is 8.5%. The cost of the money is 12%, whatever that is. And so now if I have an asset sitting here, right, in the whole life insurance policy, that I say, well, I could leverage this and borrow against it and do the down payment for the property, that 25%, that $100,000 down payment to buy this investment property at 5.5%, it's not about the positive arbitrage. It's about, compared to what? It's about the cost of capital.
Mm-hmm.
It's about increasing that efficiency. And you have to run a completely different type of spreadsheet to calculate that, right?
Yeah.
You have to, compared to what? Like me utilizing a 5.5% down payment, I have to say, all right, what would it look like compared to doing that down payment in cash,
Yeah.
right? What would it look like to compare that 5.5% down payment and all the policy loans and everything, the way the whole life policy works from a long-term perspective compared to financing a second mortgage to do that down payment. And when you start looking at it like that in these instances, and you think about opportunity cost, cost of capital, and time value of money, like this is where whole life insurance wins every single time. And I will put my life on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the thing is, it requires the consumer to take more accountability for the results in their life and to learn these things that actually matter, right? These variables that are actually going to impact the results, instead of just thinking that this magical tool of whole life insurance is going to give you positive arbitrage. And by you putting this money in a policy, your life is just going to change.
Right.
That's
So
the thing. Everybody's like, change everything just by doing one little thing and flow your money through a policy and everything's going to be better for you.
yeah.
No.
Yeah, I to wrap up that, it's what you're simply asking folks to do as we're going through these different philosophies is
Yeah.
ask the question, compared to what?
Yes.
If you're what happens is a lot of people who have whole life are just borrowing because they think it's cheaper
Yep.
in the short term, but not looking at the long term effect and all the side effects and
Yep.
symptoms and consumer behaviors that come with that. So all we're saying is, hey, just if you're gonna do it, could you at least compare it to what you could have done so that you don't get buyer's remorse 4 or 5 years
100%.
later on this asset? Okay.
An educated decision is an empowered decision, is an aligned decision, because you're going to come from a place of alignment. You know, I created the Life 180 Wealth formula, which is clarity plus alignment equals the life you desire. We need to stop thinking about rate of return, interest rates, all this stuff. Like, all that's important. We'll get there. But you got to first think about what is the life you're trying to create, right? And then go backwards from there and figure out what are the metrics and variables that I need to take into consideration in all of this to actually be able to create that life that I desire, you know? And this is the stuff that we're talking about that literally is going to help you understand the moving parts of money that will help you do it. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely.